Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week I just wanted to show off a little of my Hammer horror collection. I love Hammer horror films, especially the Hammer Dracula franchise featuring the late, the great, the brilliant Christopher Lee, who had played Count Dracula several times for Hammer films. As well as Peter Cushing, who played Van Helsing several times throughout the series. So I just wanted to show off some of my memorabilia and some of the movies I have. Now, definitely don't have much of a collection yet. I'm just getting started. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of the many brilliant films that Hammers has come out with throughout the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and they're still doing films to this day, actually. And I'm especially psyched about one that I just received today, as a matter of fact, and that is the ultimate collection of Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, from ClassicMonsters.com. Just an excellent magazine retrospective on this great Hammer Dracula film. One of my favorites in the series. Look at that. Look at that beautiful cover. I love it. Now, I waited like 7 months to get this, but it was actually worth the wait, I have to say, because there's so much love and care put into this collection. There's so many awesome pictures from the film itself, from the set of the film, the making of the film, and it's just awesome. So many great articles, including several that were written by Veronica Carson herself, who's right here, who is Christopher Lee's co-star in the film, and one of the staples of Hammer horror. She was also in a couple of the Frankenstein entries with Peter Cushing. So she's got so many great stories to tell, and you read some of them right here. So let's take a look at this awesome magazine. I am so thrilled with it. I absolutely love it. And I'm so proud to have this in my horror collection. Look at that. So many awesome pictures. Like I said, so many awesome articles. Look at that brilliant picture right there that just showcases the awesome gothic atmosphere of Hammer horror films, which they are known so well for. Nobody does that like Hammer. And there's that classic still you often see whenever you see promotions for Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, showing the beautiful Veronica Carson. And all kinds of fun facts and trivia about the film. Look at these great pictures. I love it. There's Barbara Ewing, who played Xena in the film. Yeah, I love that. Look at that. Classic shot. Look at that. There's Xena getting seduced by the Count. So absolutely thrilled with this magazine. I read every article. As soon as I got this, I could not put it down. And here's one of the articles written by Veronica Carson herself. And she wrote a few of them in here, talking all about her experiences working on the film, working with Christopher Lee, working on some of the Frankenstein movies with Peter Cushing. Definitely love Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Many Hammer horror fans feel that is one of the best in the series, and there's no question about that. There's that classic scene where he gets the stake through his heart and he ends up actually pulling it out of his heart. Awesome. There he is in his, getting ready for his slumber after he just had a fresh kill with the Count, the legendary Count Dracula. And there's that awesome movie poster from the film. I love it. So classic. So thrilled to have this as part of my Hammer Dracula collection. Dracula has risen from the grave. I love the title of it too, you know, isn't that so awesome? Now I'm going to take a look at some of my Hammer film collection. So, like I said, I don't have that many yet, but I'm working on it, you know. And of course, this is the one that put them on the map, The Curse of Frankenstein. This is their kind of their first foray into full-blown horror. And boy, did it work. It was a big hit for them. And like I said, it just put them on the map, and from there on, it was smooth sailing. There was no stopping Hammer at that time. And of course this featured the legendary Christopher Lee as well as Peter Cushing, as they had paired together many times over the years. In many Hammer films and some other films outside the Hammer horror legacy, like Amicus films. Now this 4-pack here, I've like played it to death. I can't tell you how many times I've watched all these movies. And sometimes I watch all 4 of them back to back because I love every one of them. And there you see Dracula has risen from the grave. And of course Horror of Dracula, the original Christopher Lee Dracula film. Which is my favorite, of course, and it's actually my favorite vampire film of all time, as well as my favorite Dracula film, and my favorite Hammer horror film. And another 2 excellent entries, Taste the Blood of Dracula, which I love, and Dracula AD 1972, which kind of gets a lot of hate, but I love it, you know. And it features the lovely Carolyn Monroe and Stephanie Beacham. And then I got this really awesome collection, the Hammer Horror Series, the Franchise Collection, which features Peter Cushing in the first sequel to the Dracula franchise, Brides of Dracula, which actually didn't feature Christopher Lee, but it did feature Peter Cushing returning to his role as Van Helsing. This also has some other awesome classics, like, of course, Curse of the Werewolf, starring Oliver Reed. It's got some other awesome films like Captain Clegg, Paranoiac, Nightmare. Just a lot of great stuff in there, including Kiss of the Vampire. And here's another one that gets some hate, but I love this film. I can't understand why it isn't more well recognized, and that's Scars of Dracula. Christopher Lee has probably the most dialogue in this film that he has in any of the Hammer Draculas. And I love hearing him talk. Christopher Lee has such a commanding presence, such a commanding voice, and I can't get enough of it. And this is probably the most violent entry in the Hammer Dracula series as well. And then I got this excellent 3-pack featuring Dracula Prince of Darkness. And of course, the much maligned Legend of the 7 Golden Vampires. Which definitely has to be the worst entry in the series, but I actually still enjoy it, you know, it's a lot of fun. Even though it's kind of campy and crazy and ridiculous, it somehow still manages to be fun, and Peter Cushing is great as always as Van Helsing. And here he is again in Frankenstein Created Woman. Another revered classic in the Frankenstein series. Here's another one that kind of gets a lot of unjust hate, in my opinion. It might be the most hated of the Hammer Dracula franchise, the Satanic Rites of Dracula. And I don't get it, honestly. I think it's pretty damn good. I really enjoy this one. There's so many great scenes with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee together, and when you get them two together, you just can't go wrong. They absolutely chew the scenery. Christopher Lee has some of his best lines as Dracula in this movie. Like, my revenge is spread out over centuries, and it's only just begun. I love it. And once again, Christopher Lee does have a lot of lines in this film. I love it. And you see Peter Cushing returning as Van Helsing. How can you go wrong? I love it. I got a couple other classics in the Hammer canon. The Vampire Lovers, which I absolutely love. Starring the beautiful Ingrid Pitt. And probably her most famous role as Carmilla, based on the novel of the same name. Part of the Karnstein trilogy. And then, of course, she returned for Countess Dracula. Another awesome Hammer classic, in my opinion. I love this film, and this is actually based on the real-life exploits of Countess Elizabeth Bathory. Kind of loosely based. It's more based on the kind of the legend of it more than the actual facts. But it's a whole lot of fun, and Ingrid Pitt is just absolutely fantastic in this film. And just recently I picked up this awesome entry of the Horror Hound magazine. And as soon as I saw this, I had to pick it up, because here they are paying homage to the great horror of Dracula. Such an incredible, incredible film, and it was so nice to see it get the love it truly deserves from Horror Hound. Let's see if I can find the articles here. I was really psyched to see that. You know, some love for Hammer Films. There you go. Some awesome art. I love that artwork there. And this tells all about the Hammer Dracula franchise, all the Hammer Dracula collectibles and action figures and promo shots, all kinds of cool stuff. And there you have the Karnstein trilogy I was just talking about, starring Ingrid Pitt, and of course you had Lust for a Vampire, and then you had Twins of Evil, which many people consider one of the finest Hammer films, Twins of Evil. Personally, my favorite is the Vampire Lovers, but they had the VHS Hammer films. So it talks all about the legacy of Hammer films, and I love it. So this is such an awesome magazine. So if you guys ever get a chance to pick it up, I'm not sure how many are left, but if you can get your hands on this, definitely grab it. It's a great buy. And last but certainly not least, this was one I was so psyched to pick up that I got from Barnes & Noble. The Hammer Vault, and this is absolutely amazing. It goes so in-depth into Hammer films and the entire legacy of Hammer films from beginning to end. Well, I shouldn't say end because it's still going, but And then you got the great Peter Cushing playing Sherlock Holmes and the Hounds of Baskervilles. So many beautiful pictures, so many awesome articles, and it's such a great, extremely detailed look at the history of Hammer films. They have Oliver Reed and Captain Clegg. Such an awesome, awesome book. If you guys definitely, you gotta pick this up if you see this anywhere, because it's amazing. The Quatermass in the Pit. Everything. You got the Mummy films. They talk the 1 million BC. You got, there's the Mummy films again. Twins of Evil. There's Dracula AD 1972. Look at that. Then you got the beautiful Carolyn Monroe. And there's the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. And there you have it, folks. That's my Hammer Horror collection. Once again, thank you folks for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.